I have a saying in our company. I said, everybody can win. And it really is true. I said, if everybody puts effort, we can all win. It doesn't have to be me against them. It's us working as a team. And so a lot of times I preach to the guys that are the sales guys. That's, sometimes salespeople in a lot of companies feel like they're just above the farm workers. And I go, well, you're really not. I said, you are equally important because you're just part of the chain to make it all work.
Well, welcome. This is Zippy Duvall. I'm President of American Farm Bureau, and welcome to Farmside Chat. I am excited to be with you today to share with you some of my travels across America. In the last few months, it's just been a really good time to get out and see people face to face, get out on farmers' farms and ranches, and hear how the issues and the situations that we find ourselves in during the pandemic, how they're dealing with it each and every day. So recently, I had the opportunity to go to California, some of the most productive land in the world. And in that visit, I got to go out and spend time with our guest that we will have today. His name is Dick Peixoto, and he comes from California, and his name of his farm is Lakeside Organic Garden. And we just had a great conversation, and I hope you enjoy hearing us discuss farming in California, about the drought and other issues that are facing him. So welcome to the show, Dick. So Dick, introduce us to your farm and the history of how you decided agriculture is what you want to do in life and how you got to where you're at.
Sure. I can go back to, I actually started having an interest in farming when I was about 10, 12 years old. I was riding with my dad. He was actually a pesticide salesman and sold pesticides for a living. So I learned a lot about agriculture from him, talking with him to the different farmers and learning how they do things. And he told me how they do things, why they do it, and that. So we've got a lot of vegetables in this area, so that was kind of my focus on the vegetables. And when I got into high school, I decided that's what I wanted to do. I was working in a local grocery store, and at 17, I decided to just branch out on my own and start farming on my own. So went and rented 3 different pieces, about 30 acres total, and started growing, when I was a senior in high school, started growing beans, squash, pickling cucumbers for Del Monte, and doing pretty much all the work myself. And my ag teacher from the high school came and kind of helped me along the way too. And he was an ex-farmer that was a teacher, and he kind of helped me get started too. Came out and drive tractor after school and that. So, and then over a period of years, grew that business up to about 20 years farming conventionally, and just decided about 25 years ago, decided to get into the organic deal, which is probably a little bit early in the whole development of organic. And but we kind of jumped in and started a sideline, called it Lakeside Organics, and we were at 2,500 acres of conventional at that time, and we started this little 50-acre organic farm, and all the local growers kind of called it my garden. They thought it was kind of funny that I was farming this 50-acre garden out there with about 30, 40 different crops. And so we actually named it Lakeside Organic Gardens, and the name's kind of stuck over the years. And we just built it up over the years to where now we've dropped the conventional completely, and we're about 2,000 acres of conventional of organic here in the Paro Valley, and about 1,200 acres in Southern California. So it's a pretty sizable operation. Like I say, I think we're probably the largest, solely organic grower shipper in the United States, I think, right now. So it's been a wild ride for a lot of years.
So Dick, when I was on your farm, it was amazing for me to stand there in the field. You see a row of houses along the beach, and just the other side of I don't know what you call it, the hump of dirt behind the houses, and then your fields start. And it was cool and comfortable that day, where it was just hot everywhere else. And it was just a pleasure seeing the beautiful vegetables that you grow there. Tell us how far across the country do your vegetables reach? your market?
So we basically ship to almost every state in the United States through national distribution. That we go all the way to the East Coast with outfits like Publix and Whole Foods, and we go into like Sprouts markets, a lot of different national chains that we go to. So, and we're seen our products. One of my guys was up in Alaska last week and saw our items on the shelf in Alaska. They're through Fred Meyer stores, which is a division of Kroger's, and we go have quite a presence in Western Canada. We don't do a lot in Eastern Canada, but we do a lot in Western Canada. So, and we're through a chain in Hawaii also. We're Whole Foods in Hawaii and Down to Earth in Hawaii. So pretty much in every state have pretty solid in a lot of the national organic chains.
So it's interesting to me that you decided to go totally organic, because we have a lot of farmers that do some traditional, some organic, and what's a lot of people don't understand is that there's plenty of room in the market for both. Both we have great producers that do it traditionally and organic, but I know that there are challenges in organic and there's challenges in traditional ways of farming. And a lot of those challenges are the same, but being in organics, you have to do it differently. Tell us a little bit about those challenges, and how long did it take you to learn how to handle the issues that you were dealing with them differently in traditional farming?
I think the big thing is what we kind of had to relearn. Like I said, my dad was a pesticide salesman, so I was always taught, if you saw a pest, you'd spray, and if you didn't see a pest, you better put preventive sprays on. And organic was a whole different farming method. So that's kind of why I decided to drop the conventional, because it does take a lot of more micromanagement to manage the organic farm. And a lot of what we do is, we have a saying that, we farm the soil grows the crop. And so we don't have any magic fertilizer that we can go out and buy. On conventional days, I could go out and put things like calcium nitrate on and get a quick release from that. But there's really no tools like that in organic, so we have to plan farther out ahead. So a lot of our fertilizer program is based off of building the ground up, so the ground will grow the crops. So we put a lot of compost on, a lot of cover crops to build up the soil. It's part of what we do, and we want that soil to be tuned up at all times. So we're constantly tweaking it to, with putting on natural gypsum or natural lime to adjust pHs and that. So we're constantly doing that. And then when we plant that soil, it should grow the crop, and then we have minimal inputs to make it work. And so we're looking more long term. So some of our ranch we've been on for 20, 25 years building the soil up. So that's part of the, what we do as far as the soil. And then as far as pests, it's kind of actually, if you think about it, it's actually a pretty easy formula. So what we do is we try to think, well, what would Mother Nature do? Because before we were around, obviously she kept everything in balance, because otherwise we wouldn't have the crops we have. But a lot of the pests that we have natural predators. And so it's a matter of finding those natural predators and trying to figure out, not so much to buy those and put them out in the field. We actually try to create a habitat to attract them to the field. So a lot of times that's sweet alyssum or sweet anise that we let go to seed, or cilantro, or different things like that. So a lot of times you create that, and then we create a habitat around the field so they can overwinter. So a lot of times we have hedgerows around the edge of the field. In the wintertime, when there's no crops in the field, our natural predators can overwinter. They can basically camp out in the hedgerows around the field, be ready to go to work the next spring. And so our big factor is say, well, what makes it attractive? And so without any kind of pests, there's nothing to attract the beneficials. So it's kind of a balancing act to have some pests out there to attract the beneficials, and the beneficials will come in and clean those up for us. So, one of our big ones is a syrphid fly, which basically attacks the aphid. And so if we create the habitat, syrphid fly will come and scour the fields and look for aphid colonies. They'll lay their eggs right amongst that aphid colony. Then when they're hatched, they basically the larva eats that, and it goes through the whole life cycle, becomes an adult, flies back to the sweet alyssum that we have planted, and the life cycle goes over. But we end up with a pretty darn clean plant. So So I think that's the thing, is a lot of times you just got to think, well, what did Mother Nature do before it? There is sprays we can use organically, different soaps and oils and different things like that. We try to use those as a last resort. So I'd say most of the crops we're able to do without spraying at all.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about pests. What about weeds? I know, most of our conventional farmers they spray a pre-emergent to keep things coming up. I think I saw in your video where you allow them to come up and then I guess the word would be scorch them. Can you explain a little bit about how
Yeah.
you do that?
Yeah, what we do a lot of times, we'll pre-irrigate we'll form the beds that we're going to plant on, and then we'll go ahead and we'll pre-irrigate the ground, and we'll get the weeds growing. And then if we plant seed, we'll plant that seed right in amongst the weeds, and then we'll wait about 3 or 4 days. A lot of times we'll put a piece of plexiglass out on the ground right over where we planted that seed, so the seed will sprout underneath that plexiglass usually a day before it'll come up naturally. So we'll watch that plexiglass, and then just before those, when we see our plants sprouting underneath that'll tell us go ahead and get the burner. So we'll bring in the burner the following morning, and we'll come in, and usually we have about 20-foot wide propane burner, and we'll burn all those weeds that have sprouted over there. And by doing that, then you have that one flush of weeds. Very few weeds will come up after that. So a lot of times we can get our crop up, we can get it growing, we can get a little bit of height to it, and then we'll be able to cultivate the rest of the weeds out. So one of our stories, like cilantro, we used to pay between $1,200 to $1,600 an acre to weed one crop of cilantro when we started organic. Now with a weed burner, our weeding cost is about, I think right now we're at about $76 an average for the year for weeding costs. So it's substantially changed the whole equation. And a lot of time with transplants, we'll do the same thing, but we'll pre-irrigate, we'll burn it right the day we're going to plant the transplants, and then we'll go and put our plants in, and then we got a head start on the weeds. So works pretty good that way.
But did I also understand from your website or your video that you still have to do a lot of hand pulling?
Yeah.
Weeds?
Yeah, still a lot of hand weeding, still, no matter what you do, because we don't use any pre-emergent herbicides or anything like that. There's still a battle to be fought. A lot of times you have long crops that will get another flush of weeds, and you have to go in. Hand weeding is the only way to get it. So it's still very labor intensive, especially on in organics is more labor intensive than conventional crops for sure.
So speaking of labor, Dick, how difficult is it for you to find labor to do that manual work?
Labor is probably one of our biggest battles every day. So every morning I meet with my guys. We figure out how we're going to manage the labor, and we have about 26 different crews running around out there right now doing the harvesting. But we have to balance between sales, when I call the sales office in the morning, see what they need, what they don't need. And there's decisions being made every day about what we can't harvest because we don't have enough labor to do it. So the call will go out, and they'll say, well, customers don't want to buy eggplant today. So we said, well, we won't harvest the eggplant. Or they don't want green leaf lettuce today, but they want romaine. So we said, well, we'll take the crew, we'll put them in the romaine, but we'll leave the green leaf behind. And if we can't get back to harvest it, we'll have to just till it in the ground because we just don't have enough labor to harvest all the crops we have. So pretty frustrating. I've never seen it as bad as it is.
I tell everyone that the most limiting factor we have is the labor issue. It limits the ability for us to really grow to our fullest potential. And you just gave a great example of that by saying you have to evaluate what they want today and how much labor we got to harvest it.
Right.
Unfortunately, we're in that situation, and unfortunately, politics prevents us from making a good, simple decision on a program like you just mentioned. So hopefully someday we'll wipe the politics out and decide what's best for production of food and the food security of our country, and we can move forward. One of the things that I was so impressed when I had the opportunity to visit with you was your talk about you had two families. You had your personal family, and then you had your farm family, and how important both of them was to you. And you were such a hands-on manager. You don't see that very much anymore in corporate America. So tell us about your structure between your family and your farm family, and how y'all interact, because it
Absolutely.
really impressed me.
We obviously I have a family at home. I have 3 kids. I have 2 grandkids. Obviously, everybody's got their family at home, and I have a couple of my kids that work in the business with me, and and help one of my daughters works right in the office, and my son drives tractor out in the field there. They're coming up in the ranks, and got a big future here for them. But then, and I spend as much time as I can with them, but I actually spend a lot more time with my Lakeside family here at Lakeside Organics. And a lot of them have been with us since the beginning, since we started the organic deal. Some of them have been here longer than the organic deal's been here. So I feel real commitment to them. And the thing is we really do work as a team. You hear a lot of people say that, but I mean, like I say, my morning starts every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, making a plan with my harvest guy that came up from the guy that's in charge of all of our employees that do the harvesting, which is over 500. And they take direction from Jorge. Jorge started picking radishes for us and has come up through the ranks to being a foreman, to a truck driver, to a harvest supervisor. And so over the years he's been with us, and I have a lot of respect for these guys, because I mean they're out there making things happen, and we do work as a team. And a lot of times I have a saying in our company. I said everybody can win, and it really is true. I said if everybody puts effort, we can all win. It doesn't have to be me against them. It's us working as a team. And so a lot of times I preach to the guys that are the sales guys. That's sometimes salespeople in a lot of companies feel like they're just above the farm workers, and I go, well, you're really not. I said you are equally important, because you're just part of the chain to make it all work. So it starts in the bottom with Renee that does the planting out there, and works up through Jorge and his crew that do we have the irrigation guys, Chava that does irrigation, and then we go up to the harvest guys, and then once the harvest guy gets his job done, if that truck driver doesn't show up to haul that produce to the cooler, then it burns up out in the field and we lose. And if the cooler guy doesn't run the cooler properly or get it done, then we lose. If that guy doesn't load on the truck, we lose. And so we're really dependent on everybody all the way through. And I can tell the sales guys, you really have you have no job unless Ed, you're starting with harvesting radish out there, does the right job, and everybody does it along the way. And if we all do our job, then we all win, and we all win equally. And I make sure that they know it, and make sure compensation works that way too. As far whenever we have a good year, we're going about 7 years straight now with every employee in the company gets a bonus. And I personally look at, what they do and what their position in the company and the effort they put out. And I decide how much each person's going to get as far as his bonuses. And like I say, we're known around the neighborhood for supporting our employees, and we have company barbecue for them every year, and we have a lot of programs to help them. We have a farmers market that we instituted, which has been a big success. In our cooler, we have a place designated. I was really frustrated years ago because our employees would come and work in the organic fields all day long, and then they go home, and there was no real good quality food for them at home. So we created a farmers market where we bring in every product we have, which is about 50 different items, and we put that in an area in the cooler. And then during the day, they can come in and get a bag of produce any day. All the employees can come and get a free bag of produce to take home. So a lot of times the guys will be out working, the housewife will come in, pick it up, and have it ready for them when they get home from work. And that so it gives me a lot of pride to see them actually eating the organic and living the life that they provide. So I think it's all part of making it all work.
I made the reference that you don't see that in corporate world much anymore. But I tell you, as I travel the country, I see that in a lot of farms. A lot of it's, not every farm has the luxury of growing, 45 different commodities that you grow. But when they don't have that, I see a lot of family unit between employers and employee, and really they don't even talk about it being an employee. They talk about being family, and that even exists on my farm. So farmers just tend to have that kind of relationship with the people that really want to be dedicated to providing good, healthy food for folks across the country. So I know that in all of agriculture, technology plays an important role. Could you tell us how much technology, what role it plays in your business, and maybe tell us? I'm sure you probably have good broadband in most of your fields, but how important is that to? Because there's a lot of farmers that don't
Right.
have good
Yeah, I
broadband.
guess we take it for granted because we do have good broadband throughout this area here. Really good coverage in this area. So, and a lot of the upcoming technology is, we have, like I tell the story. I said when I started farming, I farmed with a 23 horsepower tractor. Actually, it's a Caterpillar. It's on the back wall behind me there, and that's what I started farming with, a 23 horsepower Caterpillar that started with a rope, then a pony motor started. There was no electrical system on the tractor whatsoever. And that's what I started farming with. But now my son, one generation later, is driving a 560 horsepower John Deere tractor that basically has a computer that runs the engine to get peak efficiency out of the motor so we don't waste fuel. And it's GPS guided so we don't overlap and don't waste time, and we get maximum efficiency out of that. So, he called me. He said, "Dad, I got a big problem the other day." He said, "What's the problem, Rick?" He says, "The radio's not working in that tractor. I don't know if I can drive it or not." So I said, "Well, you'll have to tough it out for a day." So. But yeah, technology's come a long ways, and sometimes we do take it for granted. But there's such things like today we have, like all of our areas based off of groundwater. So we have a lot of our pumps are variable frequency drive, so we don't waste water, we don't waste power. We're able to take advantage of that. We have solar set up on some of our pumps now, where we're not covering all of the charge of the pump, but we can reduce those by having solar systems hooked up to it. Like I say, the tractors, we have all of them are the newer tractors are all computer controlled to keep the efficiency of the engine, only run the speed that we need to, depending on the load. That helps. And then GPS guidance, and also for listing in that. And we're just looking into now, we have hydrostatic sprayers, which we've adapted those to work really well on some materials for us. And right now we're moving into the next phase, which is electronic thinning and weeding and that. And so that technology is moving so fast that, we're actually kind of watching it, because as it's coming down, as it's starting up, the technology is moving so fast. We're going to sit back for a little bit and let it be developed. But we're working with some people to make that to where that's going to eliminate a lot of our weeding cost and thinning cost, and so that's going to help us there, and that's right around the corner. And they're really working on already. They're working on sprayers that will be able to actually look at a plant, see if the bug is a good bug or a bad bug, and decide based off of the population, will that be able to?
Wow.
It'll be able to determine that there's more aphid than predators in there, so we better spray that plant. But that plant's got more predators than aphids, so we don't spray that plant. So, and that technology, the guy tells me, is only a couple of years away where we'll be able to do that, drive through the field and instantaneously make the decision. So there's a lot happening out there. And that's one thing I want to kind of talk about too. Is I think the definition of a farm worker is changing as we speak. So I say, the new generation of farm workers not going to be the guy swinging the hoe. It's going to be the guy that's going to be working on these electronic deals. And so, as education becomes more and more necessary for our next generation, I think that the electronics and the systems that we're putting in place are going to require the farm worker of the future to be able to fix those systems and to analyze problems like that, as opposed to being out there just swinging hoe.
Well, and I think that should be a magnet for young people too, because usually when you put technology in the picture, regardless of where that technology leads them, they're interested in it. So I'm hoping that will be a regeneration of the next generation of farmers that want to come to the farm, and I think it will, because our kids are so encouraged or drawn to the technology piece
Right.
of anything that might be going on out there. So, um, uh, technology and labor problems is driving the technology. And in a lot of cases, even we're seeing robots milking cows now across America. and the technology just goes on and on and on. But eventually, it still takes people to drive that technology. So we encourage that next generation to stay tuned and be involved, because it is coming and it's coming fast.
Mhm.
Dick, I know that y'all have experienced terrible drought out west in California, and this is not the first year. It's been piled on multiple years. Can you tell us, is there anything over and above what you've told us that you're having to do more because of the drought?
Yeah, I think the drought, we've been through a few of them back in the 70s, and we've been through a few of them over the years. Um, and our particular area, we're very fortunate because years ago we made the decision to be kind of self-sufficient and independent of the state water system and the federal water system. So we're all based off of groundwater. We're right along the Monterey Bay area, so we're subject to saltwater intrusion. And so years ago we developed the Par Valley Water Management Agency, so that manages our water for us. So we were a little reluctant to do it, but it was probably a good move back when we did it, probably 30 years, 40 years ago. And so what they've done is set up a system to do recycle water from the system, from the city. And so that helps us. So we use a lot of that water along where we were at the other day when you said you met with us, and we were right there by the ocean. The wells on that ranch, probably 5 years ago, you couldn't use those wells there. They were saltwater intruded. And so what we've done is replace those wells with recycled water from the city to use that right along the coast, and thereby eliminating the pumping from the coast. And now the saltwater intrusion every year is moving back more toward the ocean, and I think probably in the next 10 years we'll have it solved. So, and we're looking for ways to conserve water, obviously, is a big factor. And that's our situation. But if you go inland, into the San Joaquin Valley, there's literally, hundreds of thousands of acres over there that aren't being farmed because they rely on state water, federal water, and that water just dries up. So it's unfortunately in California, the priority is the environment, and obviously cities is a big draw, and the farmer has to sit on the back and see if there's any water left for him. And it's a terrible situation to be in. So I know some of my friends over there that aren't farming their ground now, or are putting wells in at a cost of over $1 million for a well to irrigate to bring up marginal water that's really not good quality water. So pretty frustrating to watch that happen, because if you go back 15, 20 years ago, the water would come from up in the Delta area, which up in Northern California, and would supply all the water from the San Joaquin Valley, and everything was green. Now you go over there and it looks like a desert over there. It's really unfortunate that, like I say, our particular area, we're very fortunate. And then Southern California, we're operating down there, we're dependent on the water from Hoover Dam, the Colorado River water, which is in danger of being cut back next. I think that's going to be the next factor. So that will be, and we have no backup source of water. We're 100% dependent on Colorado River water for that. So that could be a big factor coming at us here pretty soon in that area there. So
Some of the most productive land in the world lies in those areas and not producing anything now. So just thinking about that, the magnitude of that, in your mind, Dick, what do we need to do as a country as we move forward to assure that there's sufficient water for the cities and the people and the environment and farmers too? In your mind, what might look like a solution to you,
I think one of the big things,
or an attempt to a solution?
I think one of the big things is that's frustrating to me is I hear more and more people say, you know what, maybe if we can't get it here, we can get it from China, we can get it from overseas, we can bring in a lot of our even produce. They're talking about flying in from overseas because of the cost over there. I think that's a ridiculous solution. I think the solution is we do have the water here. It's a matter of better management of the water, and that starts at realistic goals of what we need for the environment, realistic goals of, it's frustrating to watch people say there's no water for farming, but there's plenty of water for the city. And so I think it's a balancing there. And I mean, I don't think we built a storage area in California in the last 60, 70 years. San Luis Dam, which is pretty close to us, is one of the last ones to be built. And we need more storage. I mean, we have plenty of water in the wintertime under normal conditions. Obviously, we're in a drought right now, but we still have rains in the wintertime, but they don't capture any of those rains. And so if we could just focus more on storage, I think that's going to help us for the future, because that storage can carry us through those dry spells, and we can pull a limited amount of water from the rivers or from the delta, which is just water going out to the ocean. So there's a lot of things we could do there, but it takes cooperation of all the parties to make it happen. I know in California we've been talking about it for decades, but nobody wants to step up to the plate and get things moving.
So is the biggest roadblock environmental? Is it politics, or what is it?
I think in California it probably starts with environmental issues, and trying to balance those out, and make people realize that. And like I told people, say, well, all you farmers are using all the water. I said, you know what? We'd stop using the water if you people stop eating. But, I haven't found any volunteers for that yet. So.
Well, and I think the key thing you said earlier is to discover what the proper allotment is for the environment to keep it, because none of us want to destroy our environment, want to protect it, but they overestimate what they have to hold back for the environment and endangered species, and then that prevents us from being productive. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it sets everybody, if everybody sat down at the table and we looked at realistic goals, and I think there is enough water for everybody to keep doing what they're doing, but we have to get realistic goals for all parties.
Right. So Dick, I so much appreciate you joining me today. Is there anything else you'd like for the consumer or maybe a Farm Bureau member out there that you'd like to share with them?
I just think, well, like I say, I think Farm Bureau is a big tool for us to use to help us do our job. People often ask me, what's the biggest pest problem you have in organic? And I always have the same answer. Our biggest pest is the same as the conventional guys, and that's government intrusion and control of our lives. And I think we fight the same battle as the conventional guys a lot of times. And a lot of times, if you give a farmer a problem, you step aside, we'll get it solved. But if you put up roadblocks between us and getting the problem solved, we can't do that if you don't cut us loose and let us do our job. And so I think I've often said that, California could end world hunger if we just get the roadblocks out of our way, and if people would have realistic. I mean, we throw away, bell peppers that are crooked, or a little scar on an orange peel that nobody's going to eat. So we just throw things like that away, and it could feed the world. So I think that's something else we've worked really hard, is trying to develop second markets for our product. So it's not just the A-class product. I think that there's some great companies that we do business with that are using those products to places they could use. So if you're going to have a juice bar, you absolutely don't need a beautiful bell pepper to put in juice, or a beet. A crooked beet works fine in a juicer. So I think there's a lot of secondary markets out there we can do, and then I think we have a great second harvest food bank here in town that we work with, and we donate millions of pounds to them, so they can distribute to people that really need food. And then they've actually taken that to the next level, where with the Farm Bureau support and giving them products and everything, they've taken the next level and actually developed cooking programs to show people how to prepare food. And so I think there's this cooperative effort that I see from between Farm Bureau and a lot of the agencies here to help people get through these tough times, and that's pretty awesome to watch that happen. And so I think that's one of the things I think is big. And I think as we move forward, I think farmers today have more of a cooperative attitude toward each other too. When I was a kid, there was a fence between every farm. You stay on your side, I'll stay on my side. And nowadays, I think we work a lot better together. I mean, I share with my guys. We trade tractors with our neighbors. We trade sprinkler pipe with our neighbors. We trade ground with our neighbors. So, and I think we can all do better as we work together on it. So I think.
Well, I think you're exactly right, Dick, and I see that all over the country. People working more side by side and working together, and just making sure that we all can be successful. And you mentioned your food bank. My heart just bust open with pride when I see how much the farm bureaus and our farmers have given back, especially during this pandemic. A tone of millions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of hours of volunteerism. It's just been pretty amazing to see what's happened across this country. Farmers really do care about their community and their neighbors, and we definitely care about our natural resources and our farm and the water and air around it. Because we want to pass it on to the next generation, so they can continue to feed the world and all the things that you just mentioned are areas that we continue to work on. So, Dick, I take my hat off to you. Thank you so much for what you do. Thank you for being a Farm Bureau member, being part of our Farm Bureau family. And I truly, truly enjoyed my visit with you. It was very delightful. Beautiful place in the country. And so, Dick Choate, thank you for joining us from Lakeside Organic Garden out in California. We hope you have much success in the future, and we look forward to seeing you real soon again. Thanks to everybody listening to us. We'll be having another Farmside Chat real soon. Look forward to visiting with you then. God bless you.
Pleasure.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Farmside Chat. Please be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And while you're at it, take a minute to rate and review the podcast. This helps us continue to bring you farm fresh content that everyone can enjoy. Until next time, thank you and God bless you.